Hello friends, and welcome back. I hope you're all doing well by God's grace. Don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button and join our YouTube family. Let's start with new episode. The courtroom felt heavier than usual that morning, not because it was crowded, but because everyone knew something was about to break. Meri stood before the judge. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of years of silence, swallowed pain, and unseen betrayal finally rising to the surface. Across the room, Kody sat with that familiar smirk. The same one he always wore when he thought he was in control. Robyn leaned in close to him, whispering something in his ear. For a brief second, his smirk faded, because something felt different. What they didn't know, what they never imagined, was that Meri had been watching, listening, recording everything, every call, every lie, every promise that turned into betrayal. This wasn't just a trial anymore. This was payback. Outside the courthouse, the air was eerily still. Reporters lined the steps, cameras ready, but no one spoke. It was like the world itself was holding its breath. And then the doors opened. Meri walked out. Alone. No entourage. No statements. No performance. Just a navy blue coat, a worn manila folder clutched tightly in her hands, and a look on her face no one had ever seen before. Not anger. Not sadness. Resolve. Inside, Kody and Robyn were already seated. Relaxed. Confident. Untouchable, or so they thought. Meri didn't look at them at first. She simply walked to her attorney. A silent nod. That was enough. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, we are filing civil charges against Kody Brown and Robyn Sullivan Brown. The room shifted instantly. Financial fraud, coercive control, emotional damages, spanning over a decade of manipulation. Gasps erupted. Kody leaned back, trying to maintain composure. But something in Meri's stillness unsettled him. Because she wasn't reacting. She wasn't breaking. She was ready. Then came the evidence. The folder. 34 pages. A timeline, transactions, hidden transfers, and something far more powerful, a diary. 13 years of truth. The first entry was read aloud. March 15, 2011. Robyn moved in 6 months ago. Kody barely looks at me anymore. I asked him to talk. He said he was too tired. The courtroom fell silent. Kody shifted uncomfortably. Robyn stared down at her hands. Another entry. June 4, 2013. She asked if I was happy. I said I was trying. She smiled and said trying isn't enough for Kody. A quiet murmur spread across the room. This wasn't just testimony. This was pain, preserved in ink. Then the financial bombshell. October 12, 2015. $18,000 transferred to Robyn's account. No one told me. My card hasn't worked in weeks. The lawyer paused. At that time, Robyn had no formal income. All eyes turned. Kody cleared his throat. I may have made mistakes. Did you inform Meri? The lawyer cut in. Silence. No. And just like that, the truth started unraveling. But the real shock hadn't even come yet. Because buried inside Meri's journal was something far more dangerous than money. A document. A spiritual covenant. Supposedly signed by all wives. Equal power. Equal voice. But Robyn's version was different. It contained a hidden clause. One wife may assume leadership in times of financial risk. Meri's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. I never saw that clause until years later. Janelle stood. Mine doesn't have it either. Christine followed. Neither does mine. The courtroom erupted. Robyn's face drained of color. Kody turned toward her. What clause? That was the moment everything shifted. Because this wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was control. Planned. Executed. Hidden. Then came the witness. Rebecca Kilgore. Robyn's former assistant. The woman who knew everything. She stepped onto the stand calmly. I typed the document, she said. The room froze. That clause wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. Robyn shot to her feet. That's not true. Rebecca didn't even flinch. You said Meri was too strong, that Christine was unstable, that you needed control. Kody's face hardened. You're lying. Rebecca looked straight at him. You don't even know what she said behind your back. Then she revealed the emails. Archived. Saved. Protected. One by one, they were read aloud. Mary's a problem. We'll quietly absorb her share. No need to inform her. A collective gasp. Kody stood frozen. I never agreed to that. Robyn turned sharply, don't lie. Another email. We need to push her out gently. She won't even notice, and in that moment, everything shattered. The illusion. The loyalty. The family. Meri finally stood. For the first time, she spoke. I wanted truth. That's it. Her voice was calm, but cutting. You saw my silence as weakness. But it wasn't weakness. A pause. It was patience. Robyn broke. Completely. Tears. Panic. Collapse. I was trying to save the family. Meri didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. Because now everyone could see it. This wasn't about saving anything. It was about control. Power. And a decade of betrayal finally exposed. The judge leaned forward. Grave. Focused. This court recognizes clear evidence of manipulation and possible fraud. The room was silent again. But this time, it wasn't anticipation. It was realization. Because the truth had finally walked in, through the front door. And Meri? She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply sat down, finally heard, finally seen, and finally unstoppable. The next morning, the courthouse didn't just feel tense, it felt haunted. Word had spread overnight. Not just through media outlets, but through whispers, speculation, and fragments of truth that refused to stay buried anymore. By the time the doors opened, every seat was filled. Even the standing room was gone. This was no longer just a case. It was a reckoning. Meri entered the courtroom the same way she had the day before, quiet, steady, composed. But something had shifted. Yesterday, she brought truth. Today, she brought consequences. She took her seat without looking at Kody or Robyn. But Kody noticed anyway. He couldn't stop looking at her now. The confidence he once wore like armor had cracked overnight, replaced by something unfamiliar, uncertainty. Robyn, on the other hand, looked exhausted. Her eyes were swollen, her posture tight, like someone bracing for impact that hadn't landed yet, but knew it was coming. The judge entered. No delay this time. Court is now in session. His tone was firmer, heavier. Mrs. Brown's counsel, you may proceed. Meri's attorney stood slowly, holding a slim folder, far thinner than the one before. But somehow, it felt far more dangerous. Your Honor, today we move beyond written testimony. A pause. We move into intent. The courtroom stilled. Even the faint sound of typing from reporters stopped. We will now present a recorded conversation, dated September 3rd, 2019. Robyn's head snapped up. Kody frowned. Meri didn't move. The audio began. At first, it was static, then voices. Robyn's voice. Clear. Calculated. She's not going to fight it. That's the thing about Meri. She retreats. Always has. A chill spread across the room. Then Kody's voice followed, lower, hesitant. I just don't want this to blow up. The show, the family, Robyn again. It won't. Not if we control the narrative. We've done it before. The recording stopped. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Kody leaned forward, eyes wide, not with anger, but disbelief. You recorded that, he muttered under his breath. But Meri didn't look at him. She didn't need to. The attorney stepped forward. This conversation took place 2 days after the trust transfer emails we previously introduced. He turned toward the judge. It demonstrates not only awareness, but coordination. Robyn shook her head quickly. That's taken out of context, then explain the context, the judge said sharply. Her mouth opened, then closed. Because for the first time, there was no version of the story she could reshape. Kody stood up suddenly. I didn't agree to push her out, he said, louder now. I never said that. The attorney turned calmly. But you didn't stop it either, did you, Mr. Brown? That question didn't just hang in the air, it cut through it. Kody hesitated. And in that hesitation, the answer was already clear. Meri finally looked at him. Not with anger. Not with pain, but with something far heavier clarity. The judge leaned back, exhaling slowly. This court is beginning to see a pattern. He glanced at the evidence in front of him, not of isolated decisions, but of sustained behavior. Then came the next reveal. Your Honor, Meri's attorney continued, we would like to call one final witness for today. A pause. A financial auditor. The doors at the back of the courtroom opened. A man stepped in, mid-50s, composed, carrying a thick binder. Unlike Rebecca, he showed no emotion, only precision. He took the stand, was sworn in, and adjusted his glasses. I was hired in late 2022 to review the Brown family's shared financial accounts. The courtroom leaned in collectively. What I found, he continued, was not mismanagement. A pause. It was systematic redirection. Robyn's breathing quickened. Kody sat frozen. Funds were consistently routed through intermediary accounts, then consolidated into a single primary account. The attorney nodded. And whose account was that? The auditor didn't hesitate. Robyn Sullivan Brown's. Gasps again. But softer this time. Because people were no longer shocked. They were expecting it. The auditor flipped a page. Over a span of 6 years, approximately 68% of shared income was redirected without documented consent from all parties. Kody slowly shook his head. No, that can't be right, but his voice lacked conviction. Meri closed her eyes briefly. Not in pain, in release. Because the truth no longer needed her voice to survive. The judge spoke again. Low. Controlled. If these findings are verified, he paused. This moves beyond civil dispute. Robyn's head dropped. Her hands trembled uncontrollably now. Because this was no longer about perception, or narrative, or control. This was about accountability. The session was adjourned shortly after. But no one moved right away. It was as if the room itself needed time to process what had just happened. Kody remained seated, staring ahead. Everything he thought he knew, every version of reality he had accepted, was slipping. And for the first time, he wasn't sure who had been telling the truth all along. Robyn didn't look at anyone. Not Kody. Not the judge. Not even Meri. Because deep down, she already knew. The story she had built was collapsing. Meri stood last. She gathered her things slowly, calmly. As she turned to leave, Kody finally spoke. Soft. Almost broken. Meri, she stopped. But she didn't turn around. After a long pause, she said just one sentence. I gave you years to listen. Another pause. You chose not to. And then she walked away. Outside, the world exploded. Cameras. Headlines. Speculation. But inside that courtroom, something far more powerful had already happened. The truth had taken shape. And now there was no stopping where it would lead next. Because tomorrow, the court would decide whether this was just betrayal or something far worse. And if it was worse, then everything was about to change. The third day didn't begin with noise. It began with silence. A deeper kind than before, not anticipation, not curiosity, but the kind that settles in when people already know something irreversible has happened. The courthouse steps were packed again, but the energy had shifted. Reporters weren't chasing reactions anymore. They were waiting for a verdict that hadn't even been spoken yet. Inside, Kody arrived first. No smirk this time. No confidence. He sat down slowly, staring at the empty space in front of him like he was trying to piece together a version of events that still made sense, but nothing fit anymore. Robyn entered minutes later. She didn't sit next to him. That alone sent a ripple through the room. For years, they had presented unity, unshakable, aligned, inseparable. Now, there was distance. And it said everything. Then Meri walked in. Same steady steps. Same calm presence. But today, there was something else. Closure. Not because the case was over, but because the truth no longer needed to fight to be heard. It was already winning. The judge took his seat. This court will come to order. No small talk. No delay. He looked directly at Meri's attorney. Proceed. The attorney stood, but this time, there were no dramatic pauses, no build-up. Just clarity. Your Honor, Based on the evidence presented, journal records, financial audits, recorded conversations, and corroborated testimony, we are requesting immediate protective orders on all remaining shared assets. Robyn's head snapped up. Kody's eyes widened. And further, the attorney continued, we are requesting a forensic expansion of all accounts linked to Mrs. Robyn Sullivan Brown. The room stirred again, because everyone understood what that meant. This wasn't wrapping up. This was digging deeper. Robyn stood abruptly. This is insane, she said, her voice shaking. You're acting like I'm some kind of criminal, the judge cut in sharply. Sit down, Mrs. Brown. She froze. And slowly sat. Kody leaned forward, running a hand through his hair. This has gone too far, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. But for the first time, no one agreed with him. Meri's attorney continued. We also request that Mr. Kody Brown be formally questioned regarding his knowledge of these transactions. Now the shift turned toward him. Fully. Kody looked up. Caught. Your Honor, I've already said I didn't know about most of this. The judge leaned forward. Then you'll have no issue answering under oath. And just like that, Kody was no longer on the sidelines. He was in it. He took the stand slowly, each step heavier than the last. For years, he had been the center of everything. The decision maker. The authority. The one everyone revolved around. Now, he looked like a man realizing he may have never been in control at all. Did you authorize the transfer of shared funds into Mrs. Brown's personal accounts? The attorney asked. Kody swallowed. Some, yes, but not all. Did you review the transactions? No. Did you question them? A pause. No. The attorney nodded slightly. No further questions. But the damage was already done. Because Kody hadn't just failed to stop it, he had admitted he never even looked. Robyn stared at him from across the room. Not angry. Not defensive. Just stunned. Because in trying to protect himself, he had left her completely exposed. The judge scribbled a note, then looked up. This court finds sufficient cause to proceed with a full financial investigation. A sharp inhale rippled through the room. All shared assets are to be frozen, effective immediately. Robyn shook her head, whispering, no, you can't, but the judge continued. And, depending on the findings, this may be referred for criminal review. That word landed like a thunderclap. Criminal. Kody closed his eyes. Because now, there was no escaping it. Meri didn't react outwardly. But inside, something settled. Not victory. Not revenge. Something quieter. Justice. Beginning. The courtroom adjourned, but no one rushed out this time. Because everyone understood, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far bigger. Kody stepped down from the stand slowly. For a moment, he looked toward Meri. Like he wanted to say something. Explain. Defend. Apologize. But there are moments in life where words arrive too late. Robyn remained seated. Still. Silent. Because everything she had built, every layer of control, every hidden move, was now exposed under a light she could no longer escape. Meri stood, gathered her folder, and for the first time, she didn't look back at either of them, because she didn't need to anymore. Outside, the headlines were already writing themselves. Assets frozen. Criminal review looms. Family empire under investigation. But inside Meri, there was only one quiet realization. They had spent years controlling the story. Twisting it. Rewriting it. Silencing her within it. Not anymore. Because the truth was no longer theirs to control. And tomorrow, the investigators arrive. The numbers will be traced. The accounts uncovered. And one question will finally be answered. How far did it really go? The fourth day didn't feel like a trial anymore. It felt like the end of something that had been collapsing for years, finally hitting the ground. The courtroom was quieter than ever. No whispers. No restless movement. Just people waiting, not for drama this time, but for finality. Meri arrived first. Not out of urgency, but out of peace. She took her seat, placing the now familiar folder in front of her. But today, she didn't open it. She didn't need to. Everything that mattered had already been said. Kody entered next. He looked different. Not just tired, but hollow. Like someone who had spent the night replaying every moment, every decision, every time he didn't ask questions he should have asked. He sat down slowly, hands clasped together. For once, he wasn't trying to control anything. Robyn walked in last, and the room felt it. Her posture was rigid, her face pale, her steps uncertain. She didn't look at the audience. She didn't look at Kody. And she absolutely didn't look at Meri. Because now, there was nowhere left to hide. The judge entered. No delay. No build-up. This court is now in session. His voice carried the weight of everything that had already unfolded. He looked down at the documents in front of him, then back up. Over the past days, this court has reviewed extensive evidence, financial records, personal documentation, recorded conversations, and witness testimony. A pause. Every person in the room leaned in. What has emerged is not a misunderstanding. Another pause. Nor is it simply a breakdown of relationships. Robyn's hands began to shake. Kody stared straight ahead. Meri remained still. This is a pattern. The judge's voice hardened. A pattern of concealment, exclusion, and sustained financial manipulation. The words didn't echo. They landed. The judge continued. Mrs. Robyn Sullivan Brown, this court finds credible evidence that you exercised unauthorized control over shared financial assets and intentionally withheld critical information from other parties involved. Robyn closed her eyes. Tears slipped down silently. Mr. Kody Brown, while the court does not find sufficient evidence at this time of direct orchestration, a brief pause. Your consistent failure to review, question, or intervene in these actions constitutes negligence. Kody's jaw tightened. Because that word, negligence, meant he couldn't hide behind ignorance anymore. The judge straightened. Effective immediately, all contested assets will remain frozen pending full forensic investigation. A breath. Furthermore, this case will be formally referred for criminal review regarding financial misconduct and potential fraud. And just like that, it was no longer just a civil matter. A quiet gasp spread across the courtroom. But no one spoke. Because there was nothing left to argue. Robyn finally broke. A soft, shattered whisper, "I never meant for this." But the sentence never finished. Because intent didn't matter anymore. Only actions did. Kody turned slightly toward her. For a moment, it looked like he might defend her, stand by her, say something that could hold what was left together. But he didn't. Because now, even he could see it. Meri stood slowly. Not in reaction. Not in triumph. But in closure. The judge gave a final nod. This court is adjourned. The gavel struck. Once. Final. No chaos followed. No shouting. No dramatic exits. Just silence. The kind of silence that comes when the truth has done its job. Robyn remained seated, staring at nothing. Because everything she had built, control, influence, narrative, was gone. Not taken. Not stolen. Exposed. Kody stood, but didn't move right away. For the first time in years, he looked unsure of where to go. Or who to follow. Meri turned toward the exit. Each step steady. Unhurried. Just before she reached the doors, Kody's voice broke through. "Meri," she stopped. But she didn't turn. A long pause. Heavy with everything unsaid. "I'm sorry," he said. And this time, it sounded real. Meri closed her eyes for just a second. Taking it in. Not the apology, but the timing. Then she spoke. Calm. Clear. Final. "You had years to be sorry." A breath. "I only needed one moment to be done." And with that, she walked out. Outside, the world erupted. Cameras flashing. Reporters shouting. Headlines already rewriting the story that had been controlled for so long. But Meri didn't stop. Didn't look back. Didn't answer a single question. Because this was never about the audience. It was about the truth. And now, the truth didn't need defending. It stood on its own. Episode close. Some stories end with victory. Others end with loss. But this one ended with something far more powerful: exposure. And as the doors of the courthouse closed behind her, one thing became undeniable. The silence that once protected them became the very thing that destroyed them. Thanks for watching this video. First part is over. Please like and subscribe the channel. The next part of this episode coming very soon.